Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Tuesday, December the 6th, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, I'm going to tell you what, Russia must have never expected this when they started the war, and we never expected it. I'm going to tell you, before anybody out there, way back like 7 years ago and stuff, I was saying that Russia was preparing to attack Ukraine. I was doing shows on it. Before anybody, I got ridiculed for it. They said, stick to a financial system. Don't stick to geopolitical things and stuff like that because you don't know what you're talking about. And some people said, oh, Russia would never do anything like that. And it's just on and on. People said, hey, you're wrong, so wrong about Russia and all this kind of stuff. They'd never attack Ukraine. And I was saying, yeah, they're building up to an attack in Ukraine. This was many years ago. But what I expected when I was making those forecasts was, I expected that Russia would go through Ukraine rather quickly. I figured maybe a month or 2 months. And when the attack finally started, that's what I figured. Russia's a superpower. I didn't figure it would drag out for years, which is, well, it's not years yet, but it's just... And now, what's really a shocker is Ukraine actually is attacking Russia on their own turf. This is a real shocker. Okay, we got reports. There's been 3 strikes. So I'm going to get this chart started. We'll take a look at this. Let's start the charts right here. It says Ukraine live briefing. Attacks on Russian airfields carried out by Ukraine drones, Kiev officials say. Evidently 3 attacks. This is the 3rd. I guess what's happening right now from the Ukraine. It says Kiev, Ukraine, an oil facility close to an airfield in Russia's Kursk Oblast near a Ukrainian border caught fire Thursday. Drone strikes. Evidently, they're using drones to go as far as 450 miles inside Russia. What I heard was only 150 miles from Moscow. But the attacks didn't do severe collateral damage to Russia, and very likely, in my opinion, just my opinion only, I don't think there's gonna be a big blowback on this because the attacks, they didn't seem to do a lot of damage. But still, they did damage, just not tremendous amount of damage. But they did do damage. And this is just absolutely astounding and amazing to me. But, if they start doing this, they're going to get better at what they do. And later, they might start doing severe damage to Russia. Russia's running out of ammunition and stuff like that. This has been a long war. Most of the reason why all of this has been happening is, in modern warfare, what really makes a difference is not how many men you got. It's what kind of gear, what kind of equipment, what kind of technology do you have to attack the enemy with. Let's face it, in modern technology, if you've got the right technology, you can push one button. One man can push one button and take out a whole army all by himself if he has the right technology. And they've been supplying Ukraine with the right stuff. And this has made all the difference. And plus, Ukraine has been capturing a lot of Russian-made equipment and stuff like that during the course of this. And this is why this has been dragging out. When you get a country that's only about 1/10 the size of Russia, it should have been over ages ago. But it's turning into something that's been dragging out and dragging out and dragging out. And this is becoming very dangerous for the whole world because Russia is what used to be the former Soviet Union, and during that time they built up a tremendous nuclear arsenal, which they still have. That's actually the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth, but I don't consider it the most powerful nuclear arsenal, in my opinion, because in my opinion, I think a lot of that nuclear arsenal is Soviet-era weapon systems. In other words, I don't think they've been keeping up as much as they could have, but I think it is still a very powerful nuclear force. And so this is why it's dangerous, because nuclear war is dangerous, period. End of sentence. To switch the subject here, we're going to talk about polar dinosaurs. It says revealing ancient secrets. Polar dinosaurs. We're talking about here dinosaurs living in Alaska. It says around 73 million years ago. Okay, that's debatable. In my personal opinion, I think maybe you could take a million years for 1,000 years. I mean, how do they know how long? And when you're talking that kind of length of time, 73 million years. I mean, it could have been 73,000 as far as I'm concerned. That's just my opinion on it. But this dating business, I mean, I don't buy into that completely. It says around 73 million years ago, when a sediment was laid down, the world was warmer than it is now. You see, as far as I'm concerned, a sediment could have been laid down overnight in a geological catastrophe. Some sort of a worldwide cataclysm or something. The sediment it might not have taken millions of years to lay sediment down. It might have happened in several days. And this would throw off their estimates about how long ago. And also, something is just not quite right about all of this. You know, they were talking here. It says, well, today parts of Alaska gets few hours of twilight each day during the winter. Back then, it was plunged into total darkness for 4 months of the year, from October to February. It regularly dipped below 10 degrees Celsius with snow. It says occasional dustings of snow, but I mean, how do they know all that for sure? It says, and yet, hidden within this silty steam are the last remnants of a bizarre epoch in history. Tiny bones and teeth that are millimeters across that belong to the offspring of giants. This is where thousands of dinosaurs made their nests. In Alaska? Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's really only one explanation for all of this, and that's that the world's temperatures were different back at a certain time in ancient history. Why did they find all these mammoths, you know, frozen in ice that were still editable? And they flash froze. I believe that there was some sort of catastrophe in our past that flash froze the mammoths. And that our world was different, completely different, before whatever the catastrophe was. Of course, we don't really fully understand what the catastrophe was because it's so long ago, but there's evidence for it all around the world. And, you know, the scientific community out there, they do have a certain amount of dogma that they actually believe, as far as I'm concerned. And they're very unaccepting of new evidence unless the evidence just completely overwhelms them. You know, I mean, I'm getting off on a little bit different subject matter here, but at any rate, let's take a look at the silver price today, which is up 3 cents, 22.27. Just to switch back again, just for a second, on what I was talking about, the Russia-Ukraine war. You know, every time that they use one of these cruise missiles, and they just use them like they're like binga banga boomba, they'll push a button and like 50 cruise missiles will fly away. You know, every one of them's got hundreds of ounces of silver inside it, and they can't make new ones without silver, along with other things like your cell phone, your television. We dispose of all that stuff in this modern era. They're using millions of ounces of silver every year, and it's coming out of the ground. And what I've been watching lately is that when they pull a ton of what they call ore, which is actually the rocks that contain the silver, when they pull them out of the ground, they're getting less silver per every ton of that stuff they pull out of the ground. And this means it costs more energy and higher prices for silver. And so we have a solid floor underneath silver. The cost to produce it, the cost to get it out of the ground, which is going to go higher and higher and higher, exponentially faster, as they're digging all the best out. And so we're going to be looking at a lot higher prices. Everything's going up in price. Except what hasn't been going up over the years is the price of silver. Back in 2008 or 2009, way back that era, the silver price was higher than it is now. Do you know what you could buy with $1 back then? A lot more than you can buy now, I can tell you that. We've seen prices increase a lot. Silver price gone nowhere. Do you think that's going to last forever? Really? I don't think so. I think that it's like a beach ball that's been held underneath the water. And when it finally breaks free and goes up, it's going to go up rather suddenly, and it's never going to go back down to these prices again once it goes up. Yeah, it'll probably go up. It'll probably overshoot. That's what it always does. It'll overshoot because that's what happens with a beach ball. It's held under the water. It goes way up into the air and then it falls back down to the water again. But, I mean, it'll overshoot. But then it'll come back down, but it'll never come back down to these prices again. Say goodbye to that. Anyway, let's take a look at gold. Gold's going to do something similar. Gold's up $6.90 at $17.76. Cryptocurrency today. We're seeing it 853 billions, 17,019 for Bitcoin, and 1,258 for Ethereum. Most people are not into the cryptos any longer. They're like, oh, that's a sad story. I'm not gonna invest in that. Oh, yuck. When it was red hot there a while ago, it comes in waves like that. Crypto, and we've been in a bear market for a while now, and that's not saying it won't continue for a little bit longer, but it will heat up again at a certain point because of what it is and because of what they're doing with these fiat currencies. It's a lot of the reason why this is such a bad bear market for Bitcoin and the cryptos is because of what the Fed's been doing with their tightening. Strengthening the dollar, putting moorings underneath the dollar, because it's dollar weakness. It's what they've been doing to the dollar since 1914 until now that's gave Bitcoin any worth at all. It would still be like 29 cents per Bitcoin. It would be traded in comic book stores by these geeks who have comic books and Magic the Gathering cards and go to these Comic-Con festivals and stuff like that. Well, I mean, gosh love them, and I kind of like think to myself, hey, I'm not ridiculing them. I like that sort of thing, but anyway, that's where it would be traded. It would be traded in computer people that are like what they call geeks. A little bit higher intelligence level than the average guy, Joe, and that's why they got onto the Bitcoins and cryptos before anybody else. Generally their IQs are a bit higher than most other people, and what we call geeks. It's geeks who have built the computer industry. But that's where it would still be because it's so hard to understand, even for the average person, I mean, that's when Bitcoin and cryptos are really going to take off, is when your grandmother can understand how to use the wallet. And it doesn't take a geek to say, hey, you know what, this is like a 21 digit with numericals and capital letters and lowercase letters and 1 through 9 numbers and like 100 digits. I mean, and you get one letter wrong, you've lost your cryptocurrencies or whatever, or you forget your big long password, you've lost your cryptocurrencies. And there's a number of ways you can lose your cryptocurrencies. Just ask Peter Schiff, who had some cryptocurrency, and I understand, well, from what I understand, he lost it because of a password. I don't think it was a lot, but someday when crypto does finally really take off and make a moonshot, then they'll make it easier to understand. Everybody will want it, and it'll be anybody can buy it. It'll be, I mean, anybody can buy it now, but it'll be much easier to buy, I should say. It'll be on every cell phone or every place completely, and they'll be using it more than they use the fiat, because the fiat's going downhill. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? There's 3 asset classes, and I'm sticking by this. I know it's very depressing right now for cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency. There's very few enthusiasts, and it's going back to the time like when Bitcoin's dying sort of talk, out there and everything. But that's been around before. It's happened before. It's fooled me before. It's not going to fool me again. I know it ain't dying. It's going to come back stronger than ever when it comes back. And, when it comes back, there's going to be these 3 asset classes that are really the only ways out of the dollar. Is gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. The dollar's dying, and it's not going to stop dying until it's dead. And so what do you think's going to happen? Well, it's going to be the death and destruction of the dollar, and this is what's driven the cryptos all along, and this is what's going to drive them again. It's going to be a renaissance, but this renaissance, I think they're finally going to get it so that even grandma knows how to understand how to use crypto, because it's going to be so simplified. It's all got to do with the front end and the back end of the wallets. The front end where the people see is going to be so simplified, you're just going to push yes or no. Do you want to make this transaction, yes or no? You're not going to have to enter in your passwords or anything, I know they have wallets like that now already, but there's going to be one final make or break application that's going to be like widespread through the system that everybody's going to use. And it's going to be the big cheese. And when we see that developed and finally hit the market, that's when we're really going to see crypto really take off, because mainstream adoption, we've plagued with it, mainstream adoption, but there hasn't been enough merchants on board. There hasn't been enough use of the mainstream adoption in order to make it really take off. What's going to drive that is the destruction of the dollar. And what's going to drive the destruction of the dollar is the central bank digital currencies. So basically, I guess what I'm telling you guys is, don't give up on cryptos, because the central bank digital currencies is going to make crypto, not destroy crypto. On the front side, when the CBDCs are coming in, they're interested in weakening crypto so that they can make their CBDCs a case for their CBDCs, so that they can be successful with their CBDCs. They don't want competition. So on the front side, they're going to use their power to weaken crypto, which is what we see happening. But on the back side of this, when it's proven that the CBDCs are nothing more than an unlimited version of the fiat currency, because they're going to be pegged to the fiat currencies, it's over. And this is what's going to really drive crypto adoption. But it's also going to teach the people. It's a learning curve. They're going to learn how to leave cash behind and use a digital currency. This is perfect for the cryptos. When I talk about the cryptos, I'm talking about Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies. I'm not talking about the central bank digital currencies, which are going to burn in flames. And as they burn in flames, a transition is going to occur. And I don't believe that the vast majority of money is going to transition into what we call money, is going to transition into your precious metals. Some will. A lot will. But the flaw in the precious metals is the fact that they are limited in supply. Where the cryptocurrencies are like the fiat currencies in that they can be unlimited in supply. That's the big fault. That's why they're not going to be able to transfer the vast majority of the wealth into the precious metals, because they're going to disappear. You can't have all of the wealth in the world go into gold and silver with such a limited supply of gold and silver. Because it doesn't work on a real-time basis in a modern society to make modern transactions on the internet. It just doesn't fly. Whereas these other cryptocurrencies do. The newer ones that are able to of tremendously high TPS, which is transactions per second. They work, but they're not being used right now because of the interest involved by the central banks wanting to use their CBDCs. But the CBDCs are nothing more than just an extension of the fiat currencies that are all going to burn. If you guys kind of understand where I'm going with this. I know it's difficult to understand from right here, but you can become rich off of this and realizing that waiting and being patient and getting in on the ground level and getting yourself some cryptocurrencies when the price hits bottom and when all of this starts to actually really unfold, when the central banks have lost control completely and they have to, their economy's out of control, and we're in a situation where there's more than just stagflation, where the economy's in turmoil and they're trying to control it by the printing press. That's the situation. And the new printing press is going to be their central bank digital currency. And they're just going to be able to print it willy-nilly anywhere they want, to do whatever they want to do with it, to control the financial system. More leverage. More leverage. That's what they're going to do. They're going to up the amount of leverage that they have over the system. What's that going to do? It's going to continue to erode the purchasing power. Plus, we have the BRICS nations who are actively working at destroying the petrodollar. Destroying the dollar. That's what they want. They want carnage at this point. They are in a financial war against us over here in the West. What do you think's going to happen? Well, the Dow today is down 217 points today at 33,729. We're looking at crude oil today. It's down $1.69 at 75.24. So, I'm going to tell you, bottom line, guys, there's going to be just as big an opportunity coming up ahead with, the old saying about investors. When others are scared, when they are just so scared they don't know what to do and they're dumping, that's when you should be buying. And when everybody wants something, when it's a hot commodity, that's when you should think about selling it because it says top. If you play these things right, this is how you can make big bucks, Crude oil today, 75.24. It's down $1.69. See, what's happening is the Fed right now is putting us into not just a recession, more like a depression. There's been a hidden recession going on for a while now, and we saw it in the numbers, GDP numbers. They're hiding it. They're hiding it under the rug. They're sweeping it under the carpet. The recession, but it's there. It's going to turn into a depression. They're not going to be able to hide it any longer. The Fed's causing it. So they're going to pivot. They've already said basically 100 more basis points is as high as they can go, basically, at this point, in the interest rates. Whole thing's going to turn around. But after it turns around, it's going to continue its downward spiral. And that's when they're going to have to start to print. So we're looking out into next year sometime when they're really going to have to start to print. And that's when inflation's really going to start taking off. And we're going to have the central bank digital currency in place by then. You can't stop it. All these people out there who are complaining about it and saying, oh, it gives them too much control. They'll be pacified after it comes out. When the central bank digital currency actually comes out and starts being used, people will forget about the fact that the government can see every transaction. They'll forget about that because they'll start using it. And it's like the people who are worried about the internet. They say, oh, everybody can see who you are on the internet and blah, blah, blah. Oh, everybody's scared. And there's still a lot of people out there who are so scared. They won't put their name on the internet. They won't do this on the internet. They won't do that on the internet. They won't use their credit cards on the internet, blah, blah, blah. because they're scared of it still. And the fear over central bank digital currencies will remain there for a while. But when everybody's using it, then after a while, you have to use it. You'll have to use it. And they're going to bring it in whether you like it or not. They're already bringing it in. It's happening. So you're going to have to learn how to use it. I'm going to have to learn how to use it. Say goodbye to cash. Say goodbye to being able to take your money out of the bank. Actually, in a way, say goodbye to banks. Banks are going to change. They're going to have to morph into something different. They're not going to be something like you go to the bank. You're not going to go to the bank. There's not going to be a bank place with tellers and all that anymore in the future. And I'm talking near-term future too. The bank is going to be the mail box. It's going to come in the mail, your plastic card. You're going to have to fill out forms online. Something's going to come in the mail. And that's going to be your bank. There's not going to be a bank to go to, like a place where there's tellers and stuff. And we're going to move forward. And eventually what's going to happen is all your money, it's just one transition from one form of digital money to another. But in that transition, cash is going to be gone. And in that transition, they're going to be able to see all your payments on everything. And then after that transition, that's when we're really going to see negative interest rates is coming. And that's when we're also going to see the value of the money being lost at a tremendous rate. It's almost like a reset into the central bank digital currency in a form of a reset. But the thing is it's what's really going to drive the hyperinflation. But they can just keep adding zeros. For the longest time, they can, to the central bank digital currency, they can just add zeros. So they can keep this game going a whole leg farther once they get it all central bank digital currency. But on the other side of this coin, you're going to see these cryptocurrencies going in the opposite direction, because the central bank digital currency is inflationary and the cryptocurrencies are all deflationary. And so it's kind of like Superman with kryptonite. One moves in the opposite direction of the other. So savings is going to start to then, at that point in time, be transferred over. People are going to save in cryptocurrencies instead of in the fiat, because the fiat's losing value, the cryptocurrency's going up. And the more that effect happens in the end, the more higher value goes. So you got one moving one direction, one moving in the other. And I know we've went through this thing where Bitcoin's dropped down from 68,000 down to where it is now. And it's deflated. But that's only because it inflated too fast, too high. If you look at the long-term charts, we got a $16,000, $17,000 Bitcoin right now. It started at a nickel, for crying out loud. It ain't dead. Even if it goes down to $5,000, it ain't dead. Because it's going to reverse at a certain point. And we're going to see this stunning moves to the upside at a certain point in time. So don't give up on that. That's all I'm telling you guys is it ain't over until the fat lady sings. Anyway, move index today is 126.50. And for you guys, another thing. For you guys who love your gold and silver, you're going to see big moves too to the upside. So you're not going to get left out. The people who are going to get left out are the people who stick with the dollar and transition into these new central bank digital currencies. They're the people who are going to be the big losers. Loser! Those are the guys. So you guys pretty much got the skivvy on it now. Probably the biggest gains are going to be made in cryptos. But you got to have the right ones. So that's a bit of a risk. Gold and silver is pretty much more of a sure thing, in my mind, So it all depends on if you're a gambler or you're not a gambler. But either way, you're going to be the winners over the people who stick with the dollar. They're going to lose everything in the end, or most all of it. Move index today 126.50. Bonds and rates today, we're seeing falling yields. We're looking at a 10-year at 3.55. It's fell 4 basis points, and a U.S. 30-year at 3.56, and it's fell 5.3 basis points. And now to finish off with the U.S. dollar index at 105.12. And it's going sideways today. Thank you guys for listening to my show. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.